All right, I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Todd,
Here.
Councilmember Saper,
Here.
Councilmember Schneider,
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Here.
Councilmember Alvarez,
Here.
Councilmember Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Stokes.
Yeah, here. Thank you. With that, we do the Pledge of Allegiance. This evening will be led by Councilmember Todd.
I pledge allegiance
All right, next item number 4 is comments from the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak this evening? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Councilman. George Sluter, 800 East 23rd Avenue. I'm here to talk about 23rd and Swift Avenue apartments. The developer and contractor apparently don't care anything about the North Kansas City residents. I've talked with community development and public works in the past. I know they've done their best efforts to try and have that contractor keep the streets clean. It isn't happening. Today at 2 o'clock, I drove west on 23rd, the westbound lane, muddy, mess. I looked down Buchanan, same way on the northbound lane on it. I don't know. It's crazy. I know we have regulations on it. I think it's time that you all put the hammer down on them. Start having the police department ticket vehicles that aren't licensed, that are driving on public streets, and require them to clean those streets regularly. And if they don't, send the fire department over there, wash the streets down, and charge them 3 times what it is. It's terrible. It's a disgrace to the city of North Kansas City, and it needs to stop.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Further comments from the public? Good evening.
Aaron Hansen, 500 East 26th Avenue, and I agree with what he says. But my issue tonight is parking at the high school again. Friday night, people come over to my house. Somebody parked in the yellow, got a warning ticket, and I appreciate that. Saturday night, there was buses parked in the yellow, and everybody was like, oh, what are we supposed to do? Where are they supposed to park? Well, my opinion was the bus lane that's right next to it, or in the high school parking lots. Can we work with the school or somebody to set up a thing to where when the school has an event, buses come from out of the city or wherever to go, hey, this is where you park. That way there's not an issue, blocking traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from the public? I saw her start to come once. You coming? You coming? I'm coming. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Liz Bryan, 2417 Erie in North Kansas City. I just wanted to bring this attention. I talked to Lisa before, I think, and Jesse. Like, we're not going to have the ball diamond at where the bowling alley was. And I just wish that we could get an assisted living because it's just the people that live in these apartments, and when they move, they have to find new doctors, they don't have transportation anymore, they have the restaurants, they're established here. So they have to leave because we don't have an assisted living for them. And I think Rich Groves was here and gave a presentation, and I was really interested in that. But I had asked the previous mayor, and he said, well, he talked to the hospital, and they don't do that. Well, of course they don't make assisted livings. But I think we need to see if we, instead of an apartments, we can make a nice assisted living. We don't have to worry about parking because a lot of them don't drive. But I think that having something then, I've talked to 2 or 3 people that had to move up further north, and they're without the bus transportation. They have to change doctors. The hospital, they have to maybe go to St. Luke's. And they would just like to stay in our nice little community. And I thought, I would bring it to your attention and maybe you would give it some thought. Thanks.
Thank you. Further comments from the public? Seeing none, now we'll move on to the approval of agendas or motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item. We have two proclamations, one honoring 7 days of kindness and another one honoring the retirement of Police Major Mark Smith. And so that takes care of 6, 7. Now we're at number 8, which is presentation by Mayor Kathy Rose of Northland Career Center. If I can read my sheet here. Good evening, Mayor. How are you?
I'm limping.
Yeah.
4 weeks ago, I broke my leg.
Ugh.
So that just gives an example of 1 second on a piece of ice, and that can happen. So anyway, thank you so very, very much for allowing me. I am the mayor for the city of Riverside, Kathy Rose, and I am here to discuss with all of you, yes. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. I'm here to discuss with all of you one of my passion projects. I have been the mayor for the last 18 years. I've been very active not only in my community, but in the Northland and the Kansas City region. And I chaired the Northland Chamber last year, so I am the immediate past chair. And I got involved through the chamber on a project called the Northland Career Center. The Northland Career Center is a project that has received a $30 million grant from Governor Parson to build a new facility at 152 and Platte Purchase. And I have Brian Noller here this evening, and he's behind me, and he will actually give you all the stats on the project. But I just want you to know that I am here tonight to be able to ask you that I am asking all communities, I've presented at several other cities, to ask them to get behind this project because it is that important for our future generations. And education is a priority, and making sure that kids have an opportunity to have other options other than college and to be able to go into the trades and other the skill paths that they are going to offer is going to be phenomenal. And I'm going to turn it over to Brian, and you can watch the little slide, and he can explain it to you. So here's
Thank you.
Brian Noller.
Good evening.
Thanks, Kathy. Does that work right here?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is slide 2. You see on here kids. There's approximately 17 kids. Of those kids, they represent 12 programs, and they represent probably 16 high schools across the Northland, including the 4 North Kansas City schools. You can tell that there's two big pieces of this for the Northland Career Center becoming the Northland Workforce Development Center at that new location. And it's really to create those wonderful, relevant experiences for kids, but also building a workforce, which we hear about a lot of workforce issues. So, next slide. These are 3 kids, and these 3 kids are all, 2 of the 3 are part of the North Kansas City School District. You can see some of the testimonials that we've given. We have what we call a case statement. We have those testimonials on the back of that case statement. One representing each school district. In this case, we had 2 North Kansas City kids, Omar and Caden, one from Winnetonka and the other one was from Oak Park. If we talk about the why again, we've gathered information, data from a lot of different groups in the Northland, also the Kansas City area, and looked at studies and tried to find the right facility that would really build and really put a dent in this workforce issue for many years. The location's going to be perfect because it'll be right in the middle of our 3 major hospital units in the Northland. It'll be in the middle of our 4 manufacturing large sections between Riverside, Liberty, North Kansas City, working its way down into Front Street, but also that I-29 corridor there near the airport. So there's a lot of data on this slide. I'm going to try to remember all of it. So there's 46 kids over the last 6 years that have this zip code on there that came to Northland Career Center. Again, Northland Career Center serves all the high schools in the Northland for the most part, including the North Kansas City School District. When you combine this zip code, I think, with one of their I think it's the 17 as well, you come up with about 110 kids. And over the last 6 years of cohorts, we've had about 687 kids that came from the North Kansas City School District to Northland Career Center in Platte City. That would be a big opportunity for us to increase that number of kids and provide opportunities because, unfortunately, The facility in Platte City, even today's event, we hosted a large event, 125 people, we couldn't hardly fit them all in because it's just not built for that. It was built in 1979, it had a much different consortium, and we've really grown from there. So, this will put us 15 minutes closer to almost all the North Kansas City schools. I think Staley is more in that close to 11, 12 range. But if you think Oak Park, North Kansas City High School, right in this backyard, and Winnetonka, it'll be a wonderful opportunity for those three schools to have a much closer space and a lot of the residents of this area. Next slide, please. I'm not going to read all these bullets to you, but these are really the key why pieces. If you can think about having more opportunities for kids, really find ways to create more of a diverse opportunity for some of our students. A lot of our more diverse populations come from the south of the 152 corridor, 152 corridor south from all the three school districts of Liberty, even Platte County, Park Hill, and North Kansas City. So that's where we be able to create that opportunity there. Dual credit and a really strong partnership with Metropolitan Community College. We had an event today. They were very present. They had 2 tables, and they are looking to be our partner in supporting this wonderful facility. Industry partnerships definitely increase that opportunity, and just be a really good. On this slide, you see 3 little people up there in the corner, and that represents something for Northland Career Center. For this project, if you think about workforce development, and the other blue guy would be economic development, but the third one really is community engagement. We want to build a facility that all people feel like is something they can get value of, whether it's education or events, and be able to host in a large expo space a lot of different things for elementary kids, all the way up to senior citizens as well. So having places within that facility for, again, community education, early education, but also some fun events will be really exciting. Okay, next slide. And there's going to be a video here. We're going to skip the video for time's sake, but if you wanted to go back, and we actually just came up with a new video this morning. So go ahead and skip that, but that gives you the cost. It's a $74 million project. Kathy mentioned a $30 million grant, so we're very excited. We actually have reached out to the state to try and see if they'll match the half of that $74 million figure. Next slide shows all the different programs. There's currently 12 programs at Northland Career Center. Those are 12 wonderfully diverse programs, anything from culinary to diesel to agriculture to construction. So it really gives kids a really good feel. Over the last 7 years, the principal and myself have really done a lot of listening sessions across the city, across the Northland, across the country, and looked at different programming. JRTC is a program that aligns the military a little bit. Electrical and plumbing is a gap within our construction program. Automotive is a program that we do not have that would fit real nicely with our diesel and aviation program. Cosmetology is a program that we've had North Kansas City kids for years want to have access while they're in high school. And the last one I'll say is our hospitality strand. Hospitality is a huge strand and a huge workforce need in the Northland. We have casinos, hotels, airports, and all the above. So it's really a big need in the Northland, and we'll definitely be able to add more robust programming there. Slide. So these are the things I mentioned Metropolitan Community College. Think about an opportunity where a bus comes to that facility. We not only have education night, but we also provide childcare for those folks. So in our design and going through a lot of listening sessions, we heard a lot about providing childcare so that people have access. We want to create what we call social mobility for someone that wants education, needs education, can't afford all the things such as transportation, childcare. Can we be that one stop at night where we can provide adult programming to support them? We have wonderful partners. Kathy is one of 23, actually now 26 campaign members, cabinet members, and we also have good partners. Our partners are wonderful. You see Kinetic, Clark Anderson, you probably heard of Jay Dunn, and then also Aristocrat Realty are the partners. So, next. So here's our buckets. We have a bucket strategy. There's a foundation bucket. There's a lot of big foundations across Kansas City and the region. State and local businesses, industry and corporation individuals. So you can see how it looks. The next slide, that's our strategy. And here's where we're at. And those numbers, we did get a few donations this morning, so those actually numbers are up a little bit. So very excited about the event we had this morning, but you can kind of see that we're trying to fill those buckets. Doesn't mean if we find more money in one more bucket, it's not a perfect strategy because you never know, but at least that's where we're kind of targeting. So slide, please. This is a property. It's located in the city of Kansas City. It's about half a mile north of 152 Highway at Platte Purchase. So again, it creates a really nice bus ride for the kids in the North Kansas City School District, much closer space. In fact, the North Kansas City schools are going to be closer than Platte County High School and other schools. So it does, even though while it's in Platte County, it really does a lot of good things for the schools that are in our Clay County residents. So you can see kind of the initial layout there. We'll go to the next slide. It's a 150,000 square foot facility, a lot of instructional space, but also a lot of partnership and expo space. You can see the north piece of that little retail place. If you wanted to come eat a meal, you wanted to come participate in cosmetology, get your nails done, get your hair done, you wanted to have childcare provided, and missing one. Any type of healthcare things that we can do to actually get real world experiences for the kids, but also provide community betterment for the community with a little more of a less expensive opportunity per se. Floor plan, I've shared that. That's the blue space in the upper right-hand corner, or it'll be the front of the building is an expo space. Think about, and I'll use this example, and I'll be quick. I had a chance to go to Exchange City as a kid. Anybody going to go to Exchange City? Does that ring a bell? Okay, at least a couple of you. So think about us creating our own Exchange City in the Northland where we can actually get kids an opportunity to do more of a hands-on approach to what we call career and technical education or skilled trades, and actually be able to have girls weld and have boys have more of an experience in healthcare earlier, so it feels like it's not we call those non-traditional careers for each of the different genders, but opportunities to really give kids an early experience, but also have a big community event. We had an event this morning, 128 people. It would fit in the first blue room is what we have now. Think about what we could have done to raise money this morning to provide scholarships and other things in that larger blue space. And then next slide, is just upstairs. You can see healthcare programs. It's tough to put a diesel or a construction program upstairs in a building. So you put, in welding, so you put those on the bottom floor and you have healthcare, cosmetology, teaching professions, early childcare, and those programs up top, IT, all the above. Oh, and student services where we do some entrepreneurial thinking as well. Next slide. So this is a website. We have just brought this on live on January 10th. I promised Kathy it would be live January 10th. We got it live January 10th. You have this form, and I'll leave some of these on this table here. If you would like to donate to this project, you can pull out your phone and you can do it now, do it later. Any bit counts. If you donated $50 today, it means $100 because we have a state grant. So whatever little piece you might consider as a individual. And again, I appreciate Kathy's charge for all the cities to consider this as a project that's going to have a huge impact on the kids, the community. Again, there's 687 kids over about the last 5-6 years that came from the North Kansas City School District. Specifically, 46 of those kids came from this zip code of the 64116, and another to equal 110 from that zip code plus the 17. So we are serving students in your area. We also, I think in the future, will serve adult students in this city at that facility because I live close there. It took me about 11, 12 minutes to get here. So it's really close, and it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for people to get education in the Northland. So I think that's all I got.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Do you have any sort of deadline on when you have to raise the matching funds as it relates to the state grant?
We do. Right now, our soft deadline is the end of this year. There's a possibility for an extension. We have to have the facility built by the fall of 2026.
Okay.
That's our goal. And again, as a parent of a freshman, that I hope he gets a chance to be in that facility, that would put him as a senior. But that's also, we have to spend our state dollars because they're part of an ARPA fund grant by the end of 2026.
Okay. And I guess on that front, is there any other governmental entities you have so far committed to helping in any sort of way beyond the state?
We have the other, I would say, besides the state, we have several, and Kathy's been leading the charge, having other cities. This is the fourth city we've talked to, right? Fourth? And I think that we've also had good engagement for the last month from the city of Kansas City. It's in the city of Kansas City, so we've definitely engaged them as well. We have met with a federal agency called EDA, Economic Development Administration. We met with them last week and had a really good presentation. So we've also engaged our federal legislators in this conversation. And so looking at, you have seen a federal bucket with $5 million in it. We would have to get the combo of both of them, I believe, to get that $5 million bucket. But we've been building an application for that. We've been building a what I would call a critical need for that. And I think we're getting closer to have some good news from potentially the federal government as well. So
Perfect, appreciate that. This seems to be tackling, I think since I've been elected official now, 7 years, a problem that gets discussed in these national conferences all the time, which, there's a strong push towards the four-year education and kind of a gap on various trades and everything else. And you guys seem to be really kind of taking the leap there to try to close that gap. And see, because, there's a lot of good jobs out there, a lot of needed jobs.
Yes.
And so appreciate the work.
Yeah, more than half the programming will be skilled trades.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean the kids won't go to college. It just means
Yeah.
they may go to a different type of school where it's connecting to Metropolitan Community College, connecting to a Missouri School of Welding in Nevada, those type of things.
Yeah.
That can create real, but again, a lot of the kids start there. The best example is CNA. We have kids get their CNA, but sometimes they can go from CNA to CNA is certified nurse assistant to a licensed practical nurse to an RN with an associate's degree to an RN with a degree, then ends up being a nurse practitioner. So we've had kids that have gone all the way from starting path all the way to that path, and it's pretty exciting. So there's various ways for kids in these programs to find wealth without incurring the major debt. So that's pretty exciting. So
Perfect, fantastic. And Mayor, did you have, oh,
oh yeah. So this morning, the principal, and I was a principal at this building for 11 years, and last 2 years, the assistant principal, when I was principal, is now the principal. His name is Jeff Green, he's an Oak Park kid, so when he graduated. This school, as Northland Career Center, a little school in the building it's in, has been recognized 5 years in a row, minus the COVID year, because they didn't do an award, as a pace-setter school. It's the only school in the country to be recognized for continuous improvement, innovative instruction, support systems, and other pieces, and we built an amazing school with what we had. And so Jeff and his team won the award for the last year for the 5th time, the only school in the nation to win it 5 years. There's 1,600 schools in that network, and it's the only one. They just submitted on January 31st their 6th application for the Pacesetter Award. And they had a really good session with that national organization, and they're very hopeful that they'll be the only school in the country then that has a 6-time Pacesetter Award. So it's a really big deal, and when it's big enough we did not win it the first 3 years. Once we won it, we continued to find ways to create more innovation, increase enrollment pieces, and Jeff and his team are doing a fantastic job. And again, he's a Northlander graduated Oak Park kid, so he's definitely a Northlander at heart. I'm more of an implant. I've been here for 13 years. It's been a wonderful 13 years with my family, but Jeff and his team are doing a great job. So
fantastic. Any council member questions? Oh, there we go, Councilmember Stein.
Are you, will this be replacing the facility in Platte City, or will it be a second campus?
it'll actually be replacing. We've done some studies where we looked at having multiple campuses, and we've toured the country looking at that, and it hasn't been super successful. And this will be more of a centralized location for all of our schools, honestly, with the exception of Platte County High School. But we've got a commitment from our superintendent that they'll be able to bus kids there, and at some point, within the next 15, 20 years, you'll see a second high school there as well, right there off of Platte Purchase in 152. But the current facility will turn into something else that the Platte County School District will repurpose, and they may do some career education programming, but it may, and I don't know the perfect answer to this. There could be a program that might fit better there, but at this point, we believe we have enough space in this current plan to bring all the programs down and somewhat almost double the population from students at high school level, but also at a large nighttime through Metropolitan Community College. So,
As you raise funds from other cities and other locations, will that be easily, are you going to be sending that out, like to cities and city councils, or will it be easy for us to see that? So we
sure
can
will.
track your fundraising?
100% we will. And I will use an example. We had one of our education foundations was the first to step up and provided a $10,000 pledge this morning, Smithville Education Foundation. So that's something that we'll make sure that other foundations know that send kids to the Northland Career Center currently. So I assume, and again, I'm letting Kathy lead that part of the charge, we will definitely make sure if a city contributes, we'll let the other cities know that what's going on. So.
And I came to you guys tonight because of this. You guys have opportunity, and Riverside has opportunity that other cities in the Northland don't have. And we our city partners with about 15 different organizations that we give money to for various purposes. Feed Northland Kids, Level Up Kids. I mean, there's about 15 of them that we have partnerships with that we give I am pushing my board for a pretty significant number to be able to invest in this, because this is not like your average of not-for-profit. This is something that we have to do to match a grant.
If you want to talk in the, sorry. That way everyone at home can hear it as well. I want to make sure,
sorry.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
it on YouTube and
So,
we're okay. There we go.
So, I mean, I have went and talked to smaller cities. I've talked to Weatherby Lake. I've talked to Parkville, and they both, whatever their number is that they agreed to participate, I just told them it's on them, whatever they want to do. I'm not telling anybody they need to do anything. I'm just here tonight to ask you guys to really consider. I will be the first to tell you what my board comes up with, and we're just about there. And I would love if you guys could do a match of what we could do. Now, whatever we do, whatever Liberty does, because they're next on my list to go to, or what the city of Kansas City does, I have no idea. But I'm just trying to get a bucket filled.
I saw Councilmember Alvarez. Did you still have?
Yeah, just a quick question. Is this, I saw on here it's free to the student? Is that right?
Yeah, where the schools come in, they provide all the expenses for the student, the busing, the cost of tuition, and so tuition's one of our levers we have to, as a revenue source to provide funding for the school. So it's $4,000 right now, tuition for every kid to go there, and that's all paid by the schools. So, good question.
And again, it's public, private,
Oh, yeah, there's,
school.
yep, we have 14 public high schools, 13 public high schools, 3 private schools, and homeschool students that attend
And
there.
so they can attend this while they're in high school still?
Yep.
So it's part of that
They spend
curriculum?
half their day at
Okay.
North Kansas City High School and half their day at Northland Career Center. So, and it flip-flops AM, PM, there's 2 sessions.
Councilmember Saper, did you still have something?
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and ask about the land that you've got. Is there room for expansion?
There is. We were very fortunate. The governor visited us as kind of a kickoff thing clear back in October of '22. And we had one or two land offers. And after that visit, we had a couple community members get on fire about wanting to do something here. So we have 19 acres. We needed 12. So we have some expansion opportunities. And there was a little, on that, there's a little piece up there in the, I would call it the northwest corner that you could add on. You could add on to the back of the building. But we've expanded that footprint a little bit based on some of the feedback too. So it's got heavy equipment operation in the back where there's a place where we can do that outside. So we've expanded the building based on that feedback, and it still has expandable capabilities because we needed 12 acres, we got 19, so it gives us some flexibility. So it does.
Councilmember Smith.
So just so I'm understanding, the 30 million from the state is only 30 million if you also raise 30 million. Right?
Correct.
So they're match funding. Okay, I think that got lost in the shuffle a little bit, unless I just missed it being said. So yeah, it makes sense. We get that money coming in. You know, got to get that, and the deadline for that was the end of this year.
Soft deadline, yeah.
Soft deadline. Okay.
The
So what
hard.
would it take
go
to
ahead.
extend that? Would that be some sort of, would the governor have to do that, or the legislature?
I think it is in our best interest to provide
We don't wanna find that.
to look at that. That's our deadline now, but we've kind of made a soft request that possibly, we know the deadline for 2026 is, for the federal grant runs out. They have to spend all the money by the end of '26.
Oh,
The arbitrary deadline of 2024 was set, but we have some we will ask for flexibility if we need to. We don't want to, but we probably will have to, honestly, so. But we have a lot of confidence that we'll get close to that number by the end of this year, so.
do you have anything further on that? No. Councilmember Todd.
Yes, before I ask my question, I do want to say, as a former high school counselor in Park Hill and North Kansas City Schools, I am a huge proponent of Northland Career Center. I do think it provides access to students who wouldn't normally have access to trades. And I think it provides, I love the idea of it coming closer, because a lot of students, in my experience, didn't want to do the 45 to 60-minute bus ride. And that does take away from their school day as well. So I'm hoping that this can diminish that. The question that I have, because a lot of the problem that I ran into was you have some programs that are very competitive and have a very kind of limited number of students who can get into that. Is this going to be able to expand those programs at all and allow more students in?
Yeah, really good question. So, I we work together, so I knew you looked familiar, Tabitha. It's been a while, but thank you for the comment. Yes, and so, for example, you have a construction academy, would have heating, cooling, electrical, and construction technology, yeah, electrical, plumbing. So I have 3 programs, but we're going to build a space so that we can actually be very flexible in that programming, because if you have 75 kids that want heating, cooling, but you only have 10 kids that want plumbing, it would not make sense for us not to find the way to do that. So a lot of the labs you'll see are designed to be large labs where they share space, so that when a program has more, like heating, cooling in this case, we'd be able to be agile to do that. I don't know if you've been in the current building, we have no agility at all, and so there's a lot of boxes on that, and they're very round, or they're very square boxes, and they allow for flexible walls, so we're going to be very strategic, because when they built the building in 1979, they weren't thinking about what Brian and Jeff were going to think about in 2024 or 2022, 24, those type of things. So we've tried to piecemeal things, where in this case, this gives us a lot of flexibility with the design. So great question.
Further questions?
And my final ask then is, do not discount little money. Little money adds up quickly. So anybody that wants to give, please feel that they are putting their money in the right place. And I think that if you know anybody in these trades, they need this future workforce. They need to get behind this and support us. So I just want you to spread the same message that we're spreading, and we're going to be able to get this done.
I certainly appreciate your leadership, Mayor, and yours as well, Brian, and appreciate the presentation tonight.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I'll leave these here. On the back, there's a QR code.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Next item. Number 9, Economic Development Policy Discussion, which I believe will be led by Kim. Didn't think it was Crystal. It was going to be Crystal. She said, nope.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight is just kind of an ongoing discussion. We kind of chatted the last time about how our economic development incentive policy is something that should be kind of a living, breathing document. Kind of checked on, make sure that it's hitting the goals that you would like to see throughout the community, and amending it if it is not. So just kind of a real quick, I just put this in there just in case somebody may not have watched the previous conversation and kind of goes, why are we talking about this? Policies are important just because of protection of taxpayer interest, and really good policy requires there to be kind of written documentation of why decisions are made, why considerations are made, and just some guidance. Again, the City Council, this is a policy, so it is just something that you guys use for consideration purposes. Obviously, the power for any and all approval is with the governing body. So real quick, this is the thresholds that we've been discussing over the last couple of months. This is what the current policy states. I did attach that to the documentation that went out on Friday. So this is kind of where we are currently. And the last time we discussed, there was a lot of good conversation. Again, it was the first time that we had talked about it. I was really just kind of looking for if there were any questions and considerations. But from that conversation, it seemed that there might have been at least a consensus, or a lot of people kind of shaking their head that maybe this is something we would like to consider. And again, a lot of this work came from looking at other policies that were throughout the metro as well as around the nation. One of the things is our exceed is 33%. That did seem a little bit high when we were looking at policies both within the region as well as throughout the state. So initially it was to match what we had seen was the median, which was 20%, but there was a lot of conversation about making sure that we didn't want a policy that kind of extinguished a lot of the development that was going on. So part of what our staff wonderment is, do we lower it from 33 to 25?
Let me ask a question on that. Do you know how many applications have we received in 2022, 2023, and so far this year?
I don't have that. I'm sorry, I don't have that. on the-
General, I mean, we're not getting like hundreds of these every year.
No, we are not.
Yeah. Okay.
They do vary on their participation, just like any good negotiation. They ask for as much as possible, whether they've read the policy or not, during our first conversation. So we have had requests that are well over the 33%. And then we hand them the policy and ask them to maybe reapply within the parameters of the policy, or kind of tell us the why we should go over and beyond what our policy is. What is your public good? What is the conditions, the extraordinary circumstances that you would like us to consider?
Thank you.
And another item that kind of seemed to, a lot of conversation was to raise it to 5 million for new businesses, but keep it at 3 million, which is its current level right now for existing businesses. So again, this is where kind of I hate to say, looking to you for maybe some discussion and conversation and some direction. And again, you do not have to take any action. This is, what we do is we talk about, is the policy still working? Would we like to change anything? Or, no, we are actively not changing it. We like it the way it is.
Because I would just comment in general concerns over looking at policy like this, and I said this, I think, last meeting, and constraining it too much, right? We do want some flexibility to get applications, to give council something to consider. It might not be something like something they can reject, but I do think you want to see maximum flexibility in a policy as well, because there's going to be ideas we don't like, we hate, and the other ideas we appreciate a little bit more and may want to incentivize in a different way. So that's how I would lead that off. Further comments on this section? There we go. Oh, there he is. Councilman Schaefer.
Yeah, we need to remember this is a policy, and if someone would come and ask for more with a very creative project that would really provide benefit to the people who live here and work here, we could always consider it. But as a policy, I think we need to keep it pretty much the way it is at this point.
I'd be fine with that. Further comments on that?
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
are you saying keep it at 33 or keep it as suggested?
Keep it as it's. Not to exceed 33. As it's currently written.
Okay,
Yeah.
so not to lower it to 25.
And I would agree with just keeping the 3 as is, minimum
Keeping it
across
3
the board.
million.
Yeah. Councilmember Snyder.
I think there is a difference between encouraging companies or housing projects to reinvest versus a new housing project. So one of the things that we discussed is, as far as providing low-income housing, we're better off making sure that we make renovations possible so that we don't end up with property that is blighted. If we make it to where your reinvestment cut off at 3 million for an established, it said businesses, but I assume that means apartment complexes as well, right? As a way to encourage reinvestment in the properties that we already have versus only building new. I think that's something I could definitely get behind.
So lowering the 3 million?
No, if we did the 5, you guys were talking about the difference between the 5 and the 3,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
If it was a $5 million investment for a new build, let's say, versus a $3 million investment for renovation, I just think we have to do something to make sure. Or were you originally saying
Keep it
at 3 all the way
for
across.
both.
for everybody across the board?
Yeah.
I
So I
guess-
certainly think you could come in, buy a property, want to do up $3 million of the renovations on it, which, 3 million does go by really fast on some of these renovations. But I mean, it is what we're wanting folks to do with some of these, especially older industrial type buildings. And so if they come in and make $3 million in approvals, they have not owned it 2 years, but it might be something worth considering. And I certainly wouldn't want the policy to appear as though we don't want that sort of thing to happen. Councilmember Smith.
So we probably talked about this last time, but maybe even taking a step back for the purpose of these policy minimums for investment, is the reason to have the minimum not to waste time considering smaller projects, or what's the reason to establish a minimum of 3 million anyway?
So oftentimes it is to incentivize bigger projects, to lure and to think larger than just maybe putting lipstick on a project, to really think and make it worth there is quite a bit of labor on these particular projects to actually go through the economic development incentive policy, issuance of bonds. There is quite a bit of work in this. But the bigger thing is they wanted to incentivize more than just putting some makeup on something, which would mean a larger dollar investment to actually make it so that that project really made that property worth more and hopefully activate other projects down the street or across the street. Now, there is another slide in this deck, though, that we do talk a little bit more specifically on housing, and there are some regional conversations going on about the reinvestments that would be at a lower investment amount. And the aim with that would be, again, as we discussed before, the best strategy of keeping or creating affordable housing is to maintain what you have. So that is separate than what this would be. And again, we are looking at a much different strategy with that. There is some synergy around, it is being led by Mark's Housing, but something more of a regional approach with that.
Councilmember Snyder.
I think the feeling I'm getting, so I'm just going to summarize this, and you guys can all tell me if I'm way off base. But I think the feeling that I'm getting is there really isn't much of an appetite to restrict applications coming in based on the size or the amount, but possibly we could still continue looking at our economic incentive priorities, right? We could do that without the money piece that would cut off some applications. We could look at what we want to incentivize without saying we're going to limit the application process.
Yeah, I mean, because there's some natural floor to that anyways, right? I mean, you're not going to go out and spend $75,000 on lawyers and everyone else to draft
Yeah.
something up to get $80,000 in
And I know
tax
I'm jumping
abatements.
ahead of myself that you're not there in the slides, but I'm just trying to get the feel of what we're talking about here. Is that accurate? Does everybody kind of, that's how you understand it too?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was feeling the room out the right way. Okay.
Councilman-
No, I'm glad you said that out loud, because my mind was weighing back and forth. Like, if we keep it at the 33, we could still dictate what needs to be included in order to achieve that. Right? Like, if we're going to do that offset, or for the 3 million for establish, we can still sort of line out what we want accomplished if they want that assistance, or if they want, okay.
You done with this slide? Or we? Okay.
So, and then this is where our time horizons for abatements and levels are currently within the policy. So this is kind of where we are. And again, the last conversation was to create some flexibility within this. So think of this as the original framework, and to lower the abatement horizons from 15 years to 10 for items that meet minimums. Meaning if your project is not aligning with the council's strategic plan and what your goals are, then this is kind of where we are. However, if you are, and this is going to be further the discussion that we're going to have tonight, if your project is helping to further the city council's strategic goals and this community's goals, well then that is where the additional years of abatement would come in. That would be your most preferable. So I tried to visualize it a little bit. I was going to also recap the fact that we were going to be splitting residential and commercial. And the reason being is there definitely seems to be different goals associated with those different product types. So here is kind of what it would look like. So the project meets the ED incentive qualifications. So it would be the lowest level of abatement, which would be 50% over 10 years. And again, what that is it's not meeting all of the city council strategic goals. However, it does increase development. It does repurpose perhaps a project. It's pretty much meeting all of the requirements that are in the city's current economic development incentive policy. But by lowering the floor, you would create opportunity to incentivize. Remember, your economic development incentive policy is to entice people to do what is important to you in this community. So some of those priorities that we kind of discussed last time was resiliency, becoming a more resilient community, addressing urban heat, reducing carbon emissions, addressing North Kansas City's pretty specific stormwater concerns. Several of the comments we've heard is making sure that these multifamily buildings are providing access to the city's Link City, affordable housing, home ownership, small business support, and high-quality jobs. Some of the things that we at the staff level, and she was going to talk about during her staff comments, is we're really trying to take to heart and understand what are North Kansas City's current risks, what are our numbers so that we can provide hard data so that we can show the council and our community how are we moving the bar toward our goals. So currently with that, we have a moderate risk factor for both flood and heat indicators over the last 30 years. This is actually something that the insurance company, when they are looking at what rates are they charging, these are some of the factors that they are looking into their insurance premiums, is what is your risk factor. So this is something, this would be the project meets all of the current goals that are in the current policy as it stands. So some of the questions are, that's as it stands. Did you want to, as a governing body, weave in some of your strategic plans into this level, or did you want to keep it the way it is? And I kind of just put in a couple of things that we have heard. These are some things that we have seen in other policies. So I'm just going to kind of shut up now and let you guys have your conversation.
Can you go back to slide, I don't know, 4 or 5, whatever had the amounts on it? 1/6 then. There we go. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll take the same. I'll be the negative sounding person tonight. The same approach as the last slide and concerns that we're again constraining it too much. I do think applicants should address most everything on that list. I'd have to look at the list a little closer again. Most everything on the list should be addressed in some sort of way, but I would have concerns again over constraining the policy too far. I mean, state statute does allow you up to certain amounts, and often we're fighting to get these sort of amounts increased or have the ability to do what we want with them. So I would again have concerns constraining it too far. Councilmember Smith.
So I like the direction that this is going. The thing that it reminds me a little bit of is when we put out the RFP for the corner portion of Burlington and 32nd that's now going to be box development, and we had about 100 different things it couldn't be, and we kind of, it was a lot of different things, and so we ended up with a blank slate of land for a long time, and I worry that if we go this route and we overlay too many different things, it could end up the same way. We won't be able to envision every possible project that could be proposed. And if we start adding in, like, of course, we would like them to have the environmental pieces, but I don't know if we can tie a specific incentive number to that. I mean, maybe we can, but that feels really hard to line those out. It just becomes a lot of extra check boxes and paperwork for any application that comes in. It seems like if somebody's going to propose a creative project, we could then discuss those aspects as the project's being proposed, rather than have them fill out. I don't know. It just seems like a lot going on that last slide. With
To facilitate this, can you go to that slide real quick, just so everyone's on this? Sorry, I just want to make sure we're all looking at the
so
same
this
thing
one
that you're
here.
discussing. Okay.
Yeah. So if they're, if we're tying, 2% to an extra 2% if they have affordable housing, or an extra 3% if they, maintain a certain percentage of stormwater, like that gets really granular. And maybe that's the goal, is to get super granular and push people in a certain direction or push projects that way. But that feels very hard to put into a policy, because then it's super tight.
Yeah, and I've stewed on this. I was initially like some ideas like this, and then just the more I've thought about it, the more I've looked at it, it's a tough thing to do. I would be concerned with mandating or making it a minimum qualification of any sort. I do think they often need to address these sort of things. Are you going to do affordable? If you say no, well, then you might not get a very good favorable decision up here at council. If you don't do anything in stormwater, you're probably not going to get a very good consideration up here at council. Same with Lincoln City or any of these sorts of things. Council, I'll let you go ahead, Councilmember Snyder.
I have a few thoughts, so I'm going to try to streamline them. I asked for us to look at this, so I was part of the committee and that was looking at this. And I think one of the things that's a difference in what we were looking at in this that maybe would change some attitudes on it is instead of having a minimum economic development incentive, it was a list, a matrix of most favorable, like that said. I see the most favorable, but the other one said a minimum, yeah?
Yeah, that's my question to the council is, do you just want to leave it the
Well, I
exact
would
way it is right
certainly-
now? Do you want to weave any of the stuff into minimum, or do you just want to only talk about maximum? Or leave it exactly the way it is right now? Because you could actually leave the ED policy exactly the way it stands right now.
And maybe most people want to leave it the way it is right now. But my opinion on it would be that we wouldn't want to do a minimum. I would not want to restrict applications coming in. I would not want to limit our ability for economic development. But I would like something that says to people that are looking to develop here and to guide us ourselves to make sure we're on track with our strategic plan, these things are looked at favorably. They're not minimums, it's not a checklist, you don't have to fill anything out on it, but this is our matrix of things that we're looking for that are important to our city.
Thank you. Who's next? Fitzgerald.
That was actually a similar point to what I was going to make. I'm not a huge fan of tying, specific percentages to different causes in here, but still putting into the document that, these are goals of the city, so we'd be more likely to incentivize a project that is helping the causes that we've decided to pursue. And I also had a question on here, which may be a moot point as the percentages change, but I was just trying to understand. So like this slide says not to exceed 50%. On the prior slide, we're talking, 33 versus 25%. Are these relating to different aspects of the policy?
They are. So 33% means that the public tax dollar would not fund more than 1/3 of the overall project. Meaning if you had a $10 million project, then you wouldn't use public tax dollars for more than 1/3 of it. This right here, this 50% is abatement level, meaning that the property owner would still be paying 50% of the property and personal property on that particular parcel.
Gotcha. I'm following. Thanks.
Councilmember Smith.
To dig a little deeper on that one, how are we quantifying the 33%? Is that the value of the bonds that are bonded off of the incentive, or is it the value of the total incentive over the years that it's, where's that number?
So that number is provided by the development team. Generally speaking, it is, here's the overall budget number. Let's say it's $100 million. And when you run the tax abatement over however many years horizon, that's a dollar value. Divided by that number, it can't exceed 33%. Does that make sense?
Is that the current, so is it the time value at time of the project starting, or is it the total, like if you have a $100 million project and we're reducing their tax burden, is it the total number, like if you added all those up, or is it if you add them up and discount them back to zero?
No, it's the full amount of the abatement. So typically speaking, when you abate a project, you have to create what's called a pilot schedule because you take it completely off of the tax base. So you estimate, good or bad, okay, there is some wiggle room in what I'm about to, kind of walk through of how the process works. So we look forward and we take an estimated guess of how much that particular property would be valued over the life of the abatement level. So you typically use 2 to 3% inflation over a 10-year. Let's use 10 years because it's a bit more manageable number. So you look at what the project is valued, what the taxes would have been, cut that in half by 50% for the 10-year horizon. What is that dollar value? And that's what's counted across the initial $100 million of investment.
Interesting.
So that percentage cannot exceed 33%. According to our current policy, unless we have a conversation and we talk about the fact that this particular project has more value, and we would go beyond what our formal policy states.
I would really like to have a discussion about like clearly defining that number as a value to the project. Because if we're looking at the dollars that are being abated in year 10, the same as we are in year 1, and saying it can't exceed 33% of the project in total, that's not really 33% of the project, because the value of the dollars in year 10 is much diminished. So I would like to circle that and come back around and say, like, what is that percentage
That's
actually
something,
represent?
I'm not sure, I mean, we can put that into when we do our presentation. It is in the bond documents. It is actually outlined. That dollar value is shown in the bond documents.
Okay.
'Cause
But
it
it's not
has
part of
to
the
be.
policy it's just the 33 in the
It
policy.
is, so when we receive an application and we get that financial due diligence, that is one of the indicators that we look at to make sure it is matching what the city's policy says. So if it was, let's say the public dollar was 50% of the project scope, well, that would be something that we would have a conversation on. If we felt that it still, had a lot of value, well, then that is something for the governing body to say, yes, we would like, the public dollar to pay for half of this project, or however, those numbers rule out. But that is an industry standard calculation. It's not something that varies jurisdiction to jurisdiction because it is in the bond documents.
Further comments on this portion? Okay. I mean, overall, like to Councilmember Snyder's point, I do think it's something that should be considered on an application. And again, if it's them just not addressing it all, or it's not relevant to their project, then I guess you say that. I don't see a problem with someone having to fill out an initial application and saying, here's how we think we're going to address these things. If council's okay with adding that to the initial application process, that to me makes sense. Oh, there we go. Step safer. I got a 50-50. Oh, 60-40. Councilmember Snyder.
I just wanted to say thank you for the work that you and Shu and Mike put into this. I think it's a good discussion to have. I think including, even if we don't do the financial changes that we had considered, I think including a matrix of what we want to see as the city grows is valuable. And I think it'll be valuable to us as a council and future councils to see that compared to applications that we receive. And I fully understand that we don't want to restrict economic development in any way as far as limiting the applications that make it past the first round. But I think this is another step. There's been a lot of work with the strategic plan and the reporting that we get every meeting that we have on the advancements towards the strategic plan. And I think this is another piece that just keeps us accountable to make sure that we're growing the city in a responsible way, that we've all come together and decided which direction we want to go. So thank you for your time. I super appreciate it. And the good news is it sounds like it's going to be a much smaller project going forward than we had first thought about. So that's a time saver as well.
I would have a quick follow-up question.
Yeah, I was going to say, we do have more slides too.
My only quick question
And
is,
then we'll hit-
is there an now where I'm getting into the particular part of this is there an appetite for further discussions around creating something that helps address reinvestment in our current, what's considered affordable housing folio?
We'll go Councilmember Smith real quick.
Yeah, just a quick thought on that. I like what we've landed on. And as far as the application, what I'm looking in my head at least is like, these are the cities, however many you mentioned there, core objectives, and like check boxes next to each. Does your project address any of these things? If so, box at the bottom, how specifically? And that could be then looked at on each one individually, but not just tying a dollar or percentage to it.
Yeah, and just for the council's knowledge, really a lot of that application, when they come forward with a request, a lot of that burden of what does that look like is on the applicant. That is not something that we have check boxes and formulas. A lot of that right now is, if you have a project, please tell us what it's about, tell us what your story is. How is this project how does it match to the city's master plan? And I think what we could do, because the master plan is in there, is say, how does this match up with the city's strategic goal? And that could just be an appendix.
Yeah, I mean, because we can add it, like section 6, the application process for 100 or 353 has minimum requirements for what they need to submit. So yeah, I think we'd just add that as one of these, as item number 5, similar to some of these other things, and have it addressed however they choose to address it, I guess. But yeah, that works. I'm going to jump around now. I know we're on affordable, that we got to affordable housing. The policy does contemplate, it says the scope of the initial review is intended to determine whether the application substantially meets the requirements as policy generally appropriate. I highlighted the wrong line.
Can I say something?
I was one line below. There we go. I'll finish real quick. Sorry. No, in the event an application does not substantially meet the requirements of this policy, or is not otherwise an appropriate request for economic development assistance as determined by city staff, the application will be returned to the applicant together with a written statement of the reasons the application was deficient, and then they'll have the option to cure and resubmit. Do you know, kind of the same question earlier, over the last 3 years, how many we've rejected at that front and haven't made it to the governing body?
Most of them, we work with the applicant.
Yeah, that's
our goal is not to shut people out. Our goal is not to quash development. Our goal is really, let's get your project and your incentive requests more in line with past actions, unless their project just has some magical component to it, which some do. But a lot of them are, here are some similar projects compared to the one that you are proposing. This is what the governing body has approved, kind of like a bit of a framework.
So the number's not 0, but it's not a significant number either then.
No, I believe that there's only one application during my time here that was unilaterally denied, and that was because it was pretty out of line with what the city has ever approved, and did not meet a whole bunch of the city's building code requirements.
Even worse.
So it
Very
was
good.
one of those
Yeah.
things we were like, I'm not sure how much money you want to spend on the front end of this when it doesn't meet a whole lot of the city's other building
When
requirements.
you can't even build it. Yeah, that makes sense. Affordable housing. What ideas do we have for that? Or the reinvestment in current affordable stock? There you go, I should clarify that. Cheapest way is to protect. What's on the next slide there? Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Oh, no, never mind.
No, those are,
Sorry, now, back to 12, sorry.
so some of the things that we are looking at is that investment dollar. Should that be lower? Are we looking at investments that would normally not be considered? And those would be more internal HVAC, those type of systems. Generally speaking, our investment policy is circled around what building or what improvements are you making that raises your property value. And some of those more interior projects really would not meet that threshold. So the reinvestment component is something that we at the region are kind of talking about. It doesn't really fit into anybody's current economic development incentive policy. It is very different. So something along those lines is what we are looking at, being able to pair it with federal dollars. As you guys know, North Kansas City is not a CDBG. We do not receive federal dollars directly. There are communities here within the region that do. We are too small. We do not meet the minimum threshold. So for cities like ours, if we were to band together and put in an application to the state, who is charged with holding federal improvement dollars for cities underneath 50,000, could that move the bar with the state if we are looking more regionally and more holistically with the aim of keeping our affordable housing stock folio where it is and improving it for the future?
I wonder, having been on the business end of renovations, I wonder if we might be underestimating in the bullet that says it's less expensive to protect and reinvest, because it becomes very pricey once you start opening old walls. And you're not going to likely end up with the same quality product of a new build. Now, I don't love the idea of tearing down old housing stock. There is an appetite to reinvest in it, but I would caution the idea that it's cheaper. I think some of these projects, if somebody were to come in and buy up an apartment complex, a larger one, think French Quarter or Sunny Hill, something like that, and want to bring those up to modern standards, it's going to be a pretty expensive project. And I would be very in favor of incentivizing that. And I think this could be an entirely carved off separate section that has a whole lot of other things we look at. What you worry about is when an investor comes in and buys something like that, that it becomes no longer affordable because of the money involved in restoring or upfitting those types of projects. And you can look in the greater Northland, you see some of them, the apartments get bought up, they slap some cedar on the outside and paint the bricks black, and they triple the rent. And so if we are going to keep them affordable, we would have to start footing some of that bill as a city and what that looks like. I'd be very happy to have those discussions.
Further comments? Councilmember Snyder.
I have a comment, but it goes back quite a ways. But I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Okay, you had said that developers have access to our strategic plan when we were talking about having the incentive. But I really like the idea of, on slide 9, we have listed, yep, there it is, economic development incentive priorities. And the reason why I like something very short and sweet and direct like this is that the strategic plan is very involved and covers lots of different areas. But if we could pull out the things specific to development that we want to see going forward, not a checklist or a mandate or anything like that, that would be favorable to the city, I think that would be our best way to get maybe buy-in from developers to really go after what we see as important development incentives. And then as far as redevelopment and affordable housing, I know what you're saying, especially in smaller houses, but I have seen some phenomenal rehabs of larger facilities that it is expensive. I mean, we're still talking millions of dollars. But it's not the same as a complete tear down and rebuild, and it is more affordable than a complete tear down and rebuild. One of the worst things you can do, though, is wait too long. So if we aren't having our apartment complexes that are more affordable come in and make the changes as they need to and possibly incentivize that in some way so that we can see it happen, then it gets to the point where it is almost a total rebuild.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, how can we, what tools would we have to incentivize maintaining older housing stock rather than just these bigger projects of going in and completely gutting or tearing down and rebuilding? Do we have things like that?
We do. Currently, right now, as you'll recall, the City Council about 3 years ago did the minor home repair program, and that is something that is working. We are having applications. Those are individual, very small, for individual homeowners to be able to stay in their home.
Correct.
Some of the things that are being discussed at the regional level is grant funding as well as creating a revolving debt, a revolving loan program that is managed here at the local level. Some of the challenge is access to capital. Why are they not investing? Well, maybe they don't have enough in their folio to be able to go out for a more traditional loan. So would a revolving loan that literally just targets affordable housing and access to capital, that is something that is being discussed here at the regional level of creating something like that. LISC is kind of starting to really pull the charge on that. That is some of the work that they do constantly. So it would be very low interest, which would allow for more of that money to go into the project versus having to pay back principal and interest. There are also some other items that they are kind of looking at, land bank, as well as actually it's a protection program to get those who may not want to rent to people who take subsidy checks. There is some stigma around people who need assistance helping to pay for rent, to actually create a cachet of money that if that tenant did do damage, that would not come out of the homeowners or the landlord's pocket to repair those damages. What it really is to create some housing that perhaps landlords would not have rented to those on assistance programs because of, I'll be honest, a stigma. So could we create, and this is something that LISC is actually currently working on, almost a program where we help vet families, and I'll be honest, a lot of these are families that are needing homes and they are on assistance and they are having a tough time trying to find a home in the metro. They are stigmatized against using that particular type of payment to help offset rent. And a lot of the landlords are stating that some of the reason why they are doing that is they've had a bad experience in the past. So it would be a drawdown of fund. There would be an agreement that if damage was done, that would not come out of the landlord's pocketbook. It would come out of this other fund. And it would be kind of a regional pool, and with the goal of getting more people into homes, getting families who need some assistance, a roof over their head, and allowing them to build some equity and maybe repair some of their credit. So those are some of the styles of programs that are kind of being talked about at the regional level. Some of them are a little bit more innovative. Some of them are, we just don't have a lot of local resources that could help move the bar on some of these areas.
Okay, I was told you had your hand up. Did I missed you? Do you have something? That was a long time ago. Sorry. So we'll go to this other end here, Councilmember Todd.
Along those lines, are they also looking into any sort of programs? Because I know another barrier that some landlords have to taking those assistance checks has to do with the inspections and the very strict guidelines that have to be met. Are there any programs that also provide some sort of assistance to correct issues to meet those guidelines?
I've not heard of any of those. I mean, I think that's something that I can bring back and ask. I mean, the point of the regional collaboration and coalition is to kind of say, hey, I'm hearing this, are you hearing that? Is there an opportunity to remove a barrier?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so I want to make sure I check there. Okay, Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, the minor home repair program that you mentioned, that is specifically for like homeowners, small one-off projects. We don't have anything like that for maintenance of apartment complexes or larger.
Those are single family, and that is the way that particular program is written, is it is single family. And a lot of that is the two organizations that we partner with currently, they receive federal dollars, and that is within those guidelines as well.
Are there any federal dollars for larger more dense housing than single family to help maintain?
So there is some conversation with HUD right now exactly about that right there. Because from what, and again, I'm not in this housing area, but we do talk and I do listen quite a bit to a lot of the experts. Access to capital is a challenge. It is a challenge for more of your affordable housing, and you are starting to see a lot of those that work in that affordable housing in the multi-family area start to exit the field because the life expectancy of that particular building has been exhausted. They have maybe not had the opportunity to invest, so it is becoming a blighted area. It does get torn down, and it is replaced with not very affordable housing.
Perfect. All right. Are we on the last slide? Or no? We aren't anymore. We just went backwards. All right, I guess this is the end of this topic then. Are there further comments from council? If not, then I think we are good on this one. Thank you.
Did we make any changes?
No.
Okay.
Not substantial in numbers. Wanting those sort of things on the applications. So there is, some minor changes, but not in the numbers itself.
I may bring back a amended policy just to add that bullet that, we would like to see your project and how it aligns with the city's strategic plan, because that did seem like that gives some some guidance that that is something we would like to see in their application. And so we would want to, I think, codify that in the policy.
And have that list, or the.
Yeah, I
the,
can
like,
add that.
Focus, the
Does-
focus list.
Was everybody okay? I closed out of my, is everybody okay with those words on that slide 9 being included? It's kind of a pared down
This
list.
week.
The ones, yeah,
So,
that list
slide
we
9
just
was
had.
economic development incentive priorities, building on the council's strategic plan. So it just took pieces from the strategic plan that are focused on development. So you don't have to sift through the strategic plan and go through, like the electric vehicles for whatever. It just pulls out the items that are specific to development.
There we go. Yeah. It's, yeah. I don't know, not much to add to that. Yeah. All right, there we go. Yes. We'll say that list is good. Now we're on the next item, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second?
I think I heard a second. Yes?
Can
right?
we,
I said
You can
second.
pull
we
some
wanted
second.
to pull off item number 13, just for some clarification.
All right, will you take back your second? Will you take back your motion? We'll start with the second first.
Withdrawn.
Second. Withdrawn. We are back
Sorry,
on
guys.
the motion for consent agenda, and you have asked that item number 13 be removed, correct? Correct, okay, item
Correct.
13. All right, so I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Move to approve the amended consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We ready? Item number 13, contract for service for construction manager for public safety memorial, resolution number 24008. Councilmember Clark, there we go.
Yeah, I just pulled this off. I'm obviously in support. I think I just wanted to kind of go back where we all discussed this was going to be, I think I was under the impression that like a design firm was going to like donate their time and design toward this project. I mean, honestly, that was in my mind, that they were donating. We were finding companies around the city that were willing to donate. I get it, but I just wanted that clarification.
The architecture firm has donated all of their time to this point and continuing forward for the design and scope and everything that goes into play with the design. We are not actively sourcing donations on this. You as a body funded the project last year as a budget amendment, and we are working towards, if we have to pay the full bill, we have funding for that. Now, we are also going to entertain offers of reduced services, reduced cost of goods for the project when that comes, as long as they're qualified to do the work still. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I know in our mind it was much like, making the line item happen so that when donations come, that sort of replaces that. I thought that was my understanding, is that it existed. We had to budget for it so that we knew there would be some form of funding mechanism or donations made to help make the project happen.
Yeah, and we still think that will happen. Will we be net zero? No, we won't be net zero on it by any means, but we'll do everything we can to reduce the cost by accepting donated goods and services.
Okay. So the architecture firm, they did donate, and then it's just this Mega KC. We've got to that 87, basically 87,000, correct?
Correct.
Like that's, okay. Did you have?
Other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 18, zoning ordinance amendment regarding marijuana, bill number 7826, ordinance number 9623. And I believe this is the one I tried to describe several weeks ago when I was describing the wrong one. Now, who wants to describe it the correct way this time?
Do you want to describe
Please.
it this time?
I did a
All
good
right.
time, yeah. If we rewind YouTube video from the last time, I described the wrong ordinance.
So the last time, the ordinance in front of you addressed the possession and consumption, particularly about recreational marijuana, and regarding to a reaction to the Amendment 3 that was conducted by Missouri, the state. So we have not amended the zoning ordinance at that time to address the same issue with the recreational marijuana. So this ordinance in front of you tonight is to address that component. In our zoning code, we generally will regulate the land use in regarding to cultivation, transportation, storing, and retail of marijuana. So we're generally just remove the word medical to to expand the word into the entire marijuana world, and also kind of amended a little small and a clarification with the mixed-use buildings, what shall be allowed over there. So the Planning Commission have heard about this case last year and have voted unanimously, I'll get it straight today, for approval. And then tonight, here you're hearing this zoning ordinance. And if you have any question, I'm open to answer those.
All right, any questions from council?
First reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
An ordinance amending paragraph G of section 17.12.040 medical marijuana of chapter 17.12 zoning district and use standards of title 17 zoning of the code of the city of North Kansas City, Missouri regarding regulations of all types of marijuana uses.
I move that bill number 7826 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9623.
Try again. 9623. Yep. Yeah, I'll second that. I was one ahead of you there.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Todd?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yep.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yep.
An ordinance amending paragraph G of section 17.12.040 medical marijuana of chapter 17.12 zoning district and use standards of title 17 zoning of the code of the city of North Kansas City, Missouri regarding regulations of all types of marijuana uses.
Next item, 19. Approving accounts due and payable by the city through February 3rd, 2023, bill number 7827, ordinance number 9624.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through February 2nd, 2024.
I move that bill number 7827 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9624.
24. There we go. Is there a second? No, if he doesn't even want to.
Second.
Okay, anyway, there we go.
Second.
Councilmember Todd on the second here. Call the roll, please. I'm lost where I am.
There's a story behind it. Councilmember Todd?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes? An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through February 2nd, 2024.
Number 20, staff comments. What do we got this evening?
First, I hope everybody had a good 3 weeks. It's good to be back. Tonight, we have the reports in there, but additionally, Anthony, Shu, and Kim have additional comments for you. We'll start with Anthony.
Yeah, we just wanted to note again that the city has received its first electric fleet vehicle that was received last week, and we hope to receive the other two that we ordered this week. Looks like Thursday is when they'll be in.
Thank you.
All right, I'll take my turn. So I do have a program that the city was contacted by two professors conducting some environmental studies in regarding to a NASA project. One of them is from the University of Huntsville. One of them is from the University of Texas. They have conducted a series of case studies based off the NASA's Earth observation programs. They're going after another funding that is administered by NASA for about 2 to 3 years project, and they have asked the city of North Kansas City if we're willing to participate in this case study. What we would be doing is there is got to be cost neutral. There's no requirement for local match. We will have to contribute some staff hours, which will be reimbursable, and we will engage our community regarding to explore the topic of resiliency, and the professors and their students will help us to collect data in regarding to heat, saturation, and the climate change throughout these years for us to better understand where we're sitting at regarding to resiliency and compare us to our peer municipalities in this region. So I think it's a very exciting opportunity since we have no hard data whatsoever for a community like our size. And we're a very unique community. We're highly impervious. We have a lot of industrial uses. We are very vulnerable regarding to a lot of natural disasters. So I think it will be a great project if we could get it funded. At this point, they're just trying to figure out if the city is interested in participating. If so, and I'm trying to do tonight is to try to get a temperature check from you guys, see if you're interested in participating. If so, we will notify them, and they will file a notification of intent. Once the notification of intent is approved by NASA, they will file a formal application, and during that time, staff will bring back a draft of resolution with a formalized support letter from the city.
Didn't hear any opposition. There we go.
No objection. Great. I do think this is going to be a very big help for the city in general, long-term wise, because we know we are very vulnerable in a lot of ways. We talk a lot about affordable housing, and a lot of big component for affordable housing comes with, the fluctuation of the climate change that, boil down to the everyday, it is the utility bill. And we do want to have a better understanding of where we are sitting at now. So anyway, I'm pretty excited for this project, and hopefully we can get the funding. If so, we'll bring it back to you all.
Fantastic. Thank you. Further, I believe that was, there we go.
I am going to, after I gave Jesse the wrong answer to a question, if you guys get your electronic personal financial disclosure questionnaires, say no to both questions at the beginning. There are 2 questions. They ask you, I don't remember the first one, but the second one says, do we have an ordinance for you to have to fill out the short form? But say no to that because you don't really fill out the short form. You fill out the very short form. Now there's a short, long form, or a long, short form.
Yeah.
And so.
The shorter short form.
Yeah, so it's very confusing. So at the very beginning, there's 2 questions, and I told Jesse the wrong answer, or I gave Kim the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Then Jesse was like on page 8 of the short form when he called me.
Yeah,
Oh, did you do it too?
The long short form is no small matter. Like it was asking for my wife's birth certificate and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot. So no, it's no on the initial screen, and then
Yes.
it'll just ask you, have you conducted $500 worth of business with the city? If you have or haven't, answer that, and you're done.
Just like you do when you come in and sign up. But if you say yes, because we do have an ordinance, then you have to fill out the long form.
What's your whole portfolio? Fantastic. Thank you. Further, please.
Good evening. So a couple of council meetings ago, the city council had entered into an agreement with ETC for the next round of citizen and business satisfaction surveys. So ETC will be here at your next city council meeting to discuss those questions that are on there. So we were going to email around what those questions, what last year's, or the last 3 years ago surveys were, what those questions were for both the citizen or residential one as well as the business one. We didn't want to drop that on you on that Friday agenda and have you plow through all those questions and then come in 3 days later and say, well, what are your thoughts on all 700 of those questions? I would like to note that the EIC at their last meeting has formally requested that a few questions be added for their understanding. So, and I will include those questions in that email again. A lot of it is, actually a lot of faces here on the city council today were not part of that, that the last time we did a survey, the last time we conducted it was in 2020. So we're in 2024 now, so it has been several years, and we've got a lot of new, fresh faces on the council. Some of the questions are probably not topical anymore, so those particular surveys, there were several questions about the Armour Road Complete Street project. So there would be some opportunity to kind of replace some of those questions with, again, EIC has requested that, I believe, 3 questions be added as well. If there was any other questions that the city council would like to add, I would like to note, though, that the ETC profession is going to kind of say, be careful adding questions. You do have survey fatigue. People do get survey fatigue when you kind of, I think we've all been.
Short form.
We have all been asked where you're like, oh my goodness, if I had known that I was going to be on this survey for 25 minutes, I would have never started it. So, but that will be a discussion item at your next meeting.
Thank you. Further staff comments? Seeing none. Councilmember Todd.
Yes, Mr. Schluter, I agree with you. I have to drive down that road every single day on my way home from work, and I couldn't agree more. I would love to know what we can do. I know we have already taken some actions, but I agree. It is a mess over there. Mr. Hanson, I know parking is something that comes up quite frequently with buses especially. I don't know what we can do, but I'm on board to be part of some sort of brainstorming solutions. Liz, I agree. I would love to see that too. I hope we have a developer who is excited to do something like that as well. I definitely would support something along those lines if we have a developer who's willing to come and bring that. I already said I'm a big proponent of Northland Career Center. And what else? NASA, I would love for them to come. I would feel like a rocket scientist just if they were around at all. So I'm looking forward to that environmental study. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Saber.
I fully endorse my fellow Ward 1 council members' comments and move on.
Thank you, Councilmember Snyder.
Mike, it's good to have you back. I also wanted to say thank you to Kathy and Brian for coming and talking to us about Northland Career Center. I've worked with a student that went to their agriculture program, and it was really awesome. So I love the work that they do. I think it's exciting for them to update their facilities and be able to handle more students, and even better for us that they would be closer. And Shu, definitely yes to the study. And excited about the truck. What is the new truck being used for, the one that we have now?
Chief Hargis driving.
It's going to be the fire marshal's vehicle for Dan Williams to drive. It'll most of the time stay in town through the weeks unless there's a conference or a meeting that he has to go to.
Got it.
What are you using it for now? No, I'm kidding. Cruising.
I'm using it to evaluate whether it would be a vehicle that could be used for the chief's vehicle when we replace it in the future.
How's that 0 to 100? Thank you. Smith. There we go. Thank you.
Okay. Want to note Major Mark Smith's retirement. He was with the department for like 100 years or so. What was it, 32? 32 years? Incredible. What's that? Oh, yeah, yeah. For those who celebrate, it is Large Item Pickup Day tomorrow, I believe. Is that right? First Wednesday? Okay. Yeah, it's one of those weird. Okay, yeah. And then, yeah, I agree on 23rd and Swift, too. They need to clean that stuff up. That's all.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
I think it's already been said at this point, 23rd and Swift and, Northland Career Center looks like a, great asset if that can expand closer to here.
Thank you. Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Also, I agree about the 23rd and Swift. I was curious about, I had seen somewhere, or thought I had seen, that they had a stop work order for a while, but Of course, I drive through that area quite a bit too, and I do see people over there kind of working on different levels, and I was curious about that. So,
Sure, I can address this question. There is a stop work order currently is active, and part of the stop work order is for them to address the issue within the right-of-way, mostly to construct the right-of-way as approved by the plan and clean up the driveway daily. We have cited them separate tickets before, and we'll continue monitoring that since we have received complaints. As of today, they have not started back working yet. They are currently under stop work order. They do, however, because of the weather, I believe they have concerns about frozen pipes and other issues. So they do have on-site management team just to kind of watch and make sure the security part is correct. But I'm not aware of any construction activities as of this point. And we'll take a look at it.
okay, just curious, because I think it's a problem too. It is a mess over there and the streets are kind of dirty, muddy, and it's hard to get through. I think everything else has been covered. Would like to remind everybody that I think if you haven't heard, the Chiefs play this Sunday, Super Bowl. I think it's still illegal for fireworks and going out and shooting your gun, so please, refrain if possible. Yeah, for the police department, maybe, reminder, so. No, I heard it last week, or the last time they played, a couple Sundays ago, I can't remember. But anyway, so, I could hear it. Yeah, maybe it was, I don't know.
Probably so.
And then also, just a small added to the pickup first Wednesday of the month. I see a lot of people put things out like a week before the first Wednesday of the month. And I think, is it 24, 48 hours? I don't know, but yeah. Something like that. I don't know.
I forget what the website says, but I think it's, I can't remember.
Yeah, just a reminder to the residents, don't put it out for like 2 weeks, let it sit out there, it just doesn't look good. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Clark.
That was a direct attack to Councilmember Stokes. I'm just kidding. Thank you, city staff.
Yikes.
And a special shout out to Crystal. You're the best. The EIC would love the help of volunteers as we work to construct an EIC float for Snake Saturday. That's the end of my comments. Thanks.
Okay, now I'm waiting for the rebuttal. Councilmember Stokes.
Just love all the comments. Love these council members. Love all the work the city staff does. Love North Kansas City. Just happy Valentine's Day, I guess.
Way to end that on a very positive note there. We do definitely need to stop mess order at the very least on 23rd and Swift over there, because that is ridiculous. For council, like a week or so ago, I can't remember exact date, I sent you an email regarding the upcoming financial advisory services RFQ selection process and asked if anyone would be interested. And following that initial email, I got responses from Councilmember Fitzgerald and Councilmember Snyder, expressed interest in participating in the selection process. So I would recommend that Councilmember Fitzgerald and Councilmember Snyder join the staff in both the initial review and final selection of the municipal financial advisory services provider, which will ultimately be approved by the council. I believe that their involvement would undoubtedly add valuable insight and perspectives in the review and selection process. And to facilitate that, I'd ask that staff coordinate with Councilmembers Fitzgerald and Snyder to schedule meetings and discussions as needed, unless there is any opposition or someone else that would like to join that on the council as well. This would be very similar to kind of the initial transportation. If those two are good, can we schedule up with them to add in? And that's it on that item. I am done. Item 23. I'll have you read them. I read them too fast, I'm told.
Consideration of a request to hold in recess into an executive session as requested by the city councilor to be held on this date on a potential litigation matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute Section 610.0211.
Question.
We cannot combine them according to
Can we combine these into a single item since they're the same thing? And just mention 2 litigation matters?
The auditor prefers that we individually list them out. It was the positive part of our audit several years ago.
They're separate, unrelated matters. I don't, and so it's my position that they need to be voted on separately. Someone could easily decide not to vote in favor of one and vote in favor of the other, and we have to give everyone the opportunity to do that.
That is a good point. Thank you. So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Hold on. Councilmember Todd?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've already called it now. Now I've screwed up.
I'm being reminded that there is also a Super Bowl party at the Parks and Rec Recs department. So please attend that if you would like it, and it should be a lot of fun.
I should not have interrupted the roll call once we started.
The way
George is going to get on me.
tonight is
That was very
fine.
improper. Robert's rules, even very modified rules. It's still improper. I'm sorry. Councilmember Stokes, I believe, said yes, and we will just continue down the order. Thank you.
No, she didn't say yes.
Yeah, I go first. Yes.
You go first.
Yes. These
She
are,
distracted me at the wave. I heard a yes.
these are.
She said yes. She was
these
waving.
Are, these are DeLong's rules of
Yeah,
order.
thank you.
Councilmember Todd?
I should have.
Yes.
Yeah, we should get that.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Number 24, consideration of a request to hold in recess into an executive session as requested by the city councilor to be held on this date on a potential litigation matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute Section 610.0211.
So moved.
Second.
Further councilmember comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Todd?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald? Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Off, so that's not working anyways. There you go. With that, the live stream and Channel 2 will cut off. There'll be no further public business or votes taken this evening. Thank you.